Chapter 10. Having weathered the temporal storm, tonight Emma and Cory encounter Grace Madison, a young woman from 2010, trapped between loving Christmas and feeling bitter about its commercialization. Together, they'll explore what the holiday truly means in our modern world. Cory and Emma only had a moment as the magical Christmas train continued its journey through time. All too quickly, they found themselves stepping into yet another transformed train car. The familiar plush seats and festive decorations had given way to what appeared to be a modest church office this time. The air felt heavy with history, carrying the faint scent of old paper and wood polish. The walls were adorned with black and white photographs of marches and protests, while posters proclaiming equal rights now and we shall overcome filled the spaces between. At a worn wooden desk sat a man in his late 30s, his clerical collar a stark contrast to his dark skin. He looked up as the siblings entered, a warm smile spreading across his face despite the weariness in his eyes. "Welcome, young friends," he said, his voice rich and resonant. "I'm Reverend Marcus Johnson. Have you come to join our movement for justice?" Emma and Cory looked at each other for a moment, a fluttering mixture of anticipation and trepidation stirring in their chests. They had learned so much on their magical journey already, but something told them this encounter would be particularly powerful. "We're here to learn, Reverend Johnson," Cory said, stepping forward. "Can you tell us about your work?" A fire ignited in Marcus's eyes, his whole demeanor transforming as he spoke. "If you wish to learn, then I wish to teach. We're in the midst of a great struggle, children. Every day we face violence, arrests, and intimidation. But we must meet hate with love, injustice with non-violent resistance. It's not just about changing laws, it's about changing hearts." As Marcus spoke, the office around them seemed to fade away, replaced by vivid scenes from the past. Emma and Cory watched in awe as images of lunch counter sit-ins, freedom rides, and voter registration drives played out before their eyes. The air shimmered with each transition, as if reality itself was bending to reveal these moments in history. "I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama," Marcus continued, his voice carrying them through the scenes. "I knew from a young age that the way things were wasn't right. The segregation, the daily indignities, the constant fear. It wasn't the way people should live." Emma pressed her lips together hard as she watched young children being turned away from schools, water fountains labeled whites only, and peaceful protesters being attacked with fire hoses and police dogs. Cory's fists clenched at his sides, a mixture of anger and disbelief etched across his face. "But we didn't give up," Marcus said, his voice swelling with determination. "We organized, we marched, we sang, we believed in a better future, and we were willing to fight for it, not with fists or weapons, but with the power of our conviction and the strength of our unity." The scenes shifted again, showing massive crowds gathered in Washington, D.C., A sea of faces turned towards a man speaking passionately from the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. The air around them seemed to vibrate with the energy of the moment, and Emma and Cory could almost feel the hope and determination of the crowd. Dr. King's words that day gave us hope, Marcus said softly, but they also reminded us how far we had to go. The dream of equality was beautiful, but making it a reality would take more than just dreaming. As the visions faded and they found themselves back in the church office, Cory spoke up, his voice trembling slightly. Reverend Johnson, your courage is incredible. But how did you find the strength to keep going in the face of so much hate and violence? Marcus smiled, a look of both sadness and pride crossing his face. That, my young friend, is where the power of community and faith come in. And there's no better way to understand that than through our freedom songs. He stood up from his desk, beckoning the siblings to join him. Come, let me teach you a song that has carried us through our darkest hours and our brightest triumphs. As Marcus began to sing the opening lines of We Shall Overcome, Emma and Cory felt a tingling sensation, as if the very air around them was charged with electricity. The walls of the office seemed to pulse with each note, and a warm golden light began to fill the room. They were about to experience the true power of the civil rights movement's voice, a magic born from the unbreakable spirit of those who dared to dream of a better world. As Marcus's rich voice filled the air with memories, the office around them shimmered and faded, replaced by a scene from a cold December day in 1963. Snow dusted the sidewalks of Birmingham, and twinkling Christmas lights adorned storefronts, their cheerful glow a stark contrast to the somber mood that hung over the city like a heavy blanket. Christmas of 1963 was a time of both sorrow and hope, Marcus said, his words barely above a whisper. The air around them seemed to grow thick with emotion, and Emma felt a lump forming in her throat. We were still mourning the children lost in the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing. As he spoke, ghostly images materialized around them. 4 young girls, their faces bright with innocence, fading into wisps of smoke. Emma's eyes welled with tears, and she reached out instinctively to grab Cory's hand. Her brother squeezed back, his jaw clenched tight as he struggled to process the weight of what they were witnessing. But even in that grief, we kept pushing forward, Marcus continued, his voice gaining strength. The scene shifted, showing Marcus looking younger but with the same determined glint in his eye, organizing a group of volunteers. I was organizing a Christmas charity drive for underprivileged children to remind everyone of our shared humanity. Emma and Cory watched as Marcus and his team sorted through donated toys and warm clothes, their faces alight with purpose, despite the sorrow that lingered in their eyes. The magic of the train allowed them to feel the warmth of the volunteers' camaraderie in their shared jokes and chatter, and the spark of hope that flickered even in the darkest times. Cory felt a chill crawl up his spine, goosebumps rising on his arms. Something in Marcus's tone told him that the story was about to take a turn. He gripped Emma's hand tighter, bracing himself for what was to come. "I was shot 2 days before Christmas," Marcus said softly, his eyes lowering. The scene around them changed once more, showing Marcus collecting donations on a street corner. A figure emerged from the shadows, hatred twisting their features. "I was collecting donations when a white supremacist took my life." A hand raised right in front of them, a strong, powerful hand holding a gun, the finger on the trigger bending ever so slightly. The gunshot rang out, making Emma and Cory flinch. They watched in horror as Marcus fell, the Christmas presents he'd been holding scattering across the snowy sidewalk. Emma cried out and buried her face in Cory's shoulder, unable to watch, while Cory stared transfixed by the cruel reality of what they were witnessing. "But I died fighting for a better future for all children, no matter their skin color," Marcus's voice continued, gentle but resolute. The train car fell silent, the weight of his words settling over them like a heavy cloak. Emma raised her head, her cheeks wet with tears. She swallowed hard, her voice barely a whisper. "That's terrible." "It was necessary," Marcus said, his tone gentle but firm. His eyes, filled with a mixture of sadness and unwavering determination, met theirs. "I believed in what I was fighting for, and I still do." The gravity of Marcus's sacrifice hung in the air, making it hard to breathe. Cory felt a burning in his chest, a mixture of anger at the injustice and awe at Marcus's courage. Emma, her heart aching, stepped forward, her voice trembling but resolute. "How can we help?" she asked, her eyes shining with a newfound determination. "How can we keep your work alive?" Marcus's eyes lit up at her question, a smile spreading across his face that seemed to chase away some of the sorrow. He stood up from his desk, and with a wave of his hand, the office around them seemed to dissolve in a swirl of golden light. Suddenly, Cory and Emma found themselves standing in the midst of a civil rights march. The streets stretched out before them, packed with people, men, women, and children of all races marching arm in arm. The air crackled with tension, but there was also an electric current of hope that ran through the crowd, making the hairs on the back of their necks stand up. Marcus began to sing, his deep voice rising above the murmur of the crowd. The melody of "We Shall Overcome" filled the air, each note resonating with the power of countless voices joined in harmony. It was a song of resilience, of hope that stretched across generations, bridging past and present. Cory and Emma glanced at each other, a silent understanding passing between them. Then, almost without realizing it, they began to sing too. Their voices, hesitant at first, grew stronger as they blended with the chorus of those marching beside them. As they sang, the world around them shifted in a kaleidoscope of images from the civil rights movement. They saw brave students sitting stoically at segregated lunch counters, enduring taunts and abuse with dignified silence. They witnessed the sea of faces at the March of Washington, hope and determination etched on every countenance. They felt the ache in the marchers' feet during the long journey from Selma to Montgomery, each step a testament to their unwavering commitment to justice. Through it all, the song carried them, its message of unity and perseverance washing over them like a healing balm. Emma felt her heart swell with emotion, understanding for the first time the true power of music to uplift and inspire. Cory, usually so reserved, found himself singing with all his heart, caught up in the wave of solidarity that surrounded them. As the last notes of the song echoed into silence, Marcus turned to them, his eyes shining. "These songs," he said, his voice filled with reverence, "are more than just words. They're our strength, our hope. They carried us through the darkest times and remind us that we're not alone." Emma glanced at Cory, her throat tight with emotion. She could feel the weight of what they were learning settling deep within her. Not just lessons from the past, but a call to action for the future. "But it's not over, is it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Marcus shook his head, a sad smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "No," he said softly, "the struggle for equality never ends. It's up to each generation to carry the torch forward." With another wave of his hand, Marcus brought them back to the quiet of his office. But now the siblings saw the space with new eyes. Each poster on the wall, each photograph told a story of courage and perseverance. They sat down, their minds whirling with all they had seen and experienced. Marcus spoke to them about the ongoing fight for civil rights, his words painting a vivid picture of the challenges and triumphs. He explained how nonviolent resistance had been their greatest weapon, requiring immense discipline and courage in the face of brutality. "Imagine," he said, his voice low and intense, "standing firm as fire hoses are turned on you or dogs set loose. Imagine not raising a hand in anger even as blows rain down upon you. That takes a special kind of strength." Cory and Emma listened, wide-eyed, their admiration for these brave individuals growing with each word. They began to understand that true courage often meant standing strong in the face of injustice, even when every instinct screamed to fight back. Marcus also spoke of intersectionality, the idea that the fight for equality isn't just about race, but includes gender, economic status, and other forms of oppression. He painted a picture of a world where various forms of discrimination intersected, creating complex webs of injustice that required equally complex solutions. Being an ally means standing up, even when it's hard, he said, his eyes boring into theirs. It means speaking out against injustice, not just when it affects you, but when it affects others. It means using your privilege, whatever form it takes, to lift up those who have been pushed down. As Marcus spoke, Cory and Emma found their thoughts turning to Rosewood Hollow, their small hometown. It had always seemed peaceful enough, a cozy haven where everyone knew everyone else. But now they wondered, Were they really doing enough to make it a better place for everyone? Were there things they hadn't noticed, problems they had ignored because they didn't affect them directly? Emma's brow furrowed as she thought of Amaya, a girl in her class who always sat alone at lunch. Had she ever really tried to include her? And Cory remembered Mr. Johnson, the elderly man who lived down the street. How often had he walked past without offering to help with his groceries? "We'll do better," Emma promised, her voice filled with newfound determination. "We'll speak up. We'll notice." Marcus smiled, though his eyes still held that same profound sadness. "That's all I ask," he said. "Remember, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." As they prepared to leave, the siblings knew they had changed. Marcus's story wasn't just history. It was a call to action that resonated in their very souls. They understood that the fight for equality, for justice, was something that never ended. It was something they had to be part of in their own time and place. The train began to move again, the familiar whistle sounding in the distance. As they looked back at Marcus, he gave them one final piece of advice, his voice soft but filled with an urgency that made their hearts race. "Your voice matters," he said. "Use it. Every time you speak up for what's right, you're adding your verse to the great song of justice." Cory and Emma stepped through the door, the echo of Marcus's words ringing in their ears. As they moved forward, they felt the weight of the lessons they had learned about love, courage, and justice settling deep within them. It was a weight that didn't burden them, but rather gave them strength, purpose, and direction. They knew now that their journey wasn't just about discovering the magic of Christmas. It was about discovering the magic within themselves, the power to make a difference, to stand up for what's right, to be a light in the darkness. As the train carried them onward to their next adventure, Cory and Emma shared a look of understanding. They were no longer just observers of history. They were part of its unfolding story, ready to play their part in creating a better world. Grace's revelation about Christmas's true meaning resonates deeply. Tomorrow, time begins to run out as dawn approaches. Check out all of the other books in the Magical Papillon series of cozy mysteries on Amazon now.